Welcome to the Fantasy Champions Fantasy Football Podcast. What do we got today, Rick?
We got the Week 12 waiver wire.
Welcome to the Fantasy Champions Fantasy Football Podcast. Here's your host, Morgan Colby and Rick Lemon.
What is poppin', Fantasy Champions?
Oh.
It's been an interesting week 11. I've just decided that the running back position is entirely holistically unapproachable.
Yeah, you're telling me.
I'm not sure that there's one trustable running back besides Dalvin Cook in the entire NFL. Even what did Chubb get this week? 7?
Chubb got
or
like
12? 12? Yeah. No one is good at this point, so it's been an interesting week 11.
I know.
We are recording this on Monday, so I need a win. I need 22 points from. I feel like every Monday this season I've had to deal with this, but I need 22 points from Antonio Brown and Buccaneers D.
You're in a better situation than I'm in.
Yeah, you have a 0% chance of winning.
I need 55.
This is in our home league.
From Tom Brady and Robert Woods.
Oh God.
So yeah.
Good luck.
It's GG for me. GG for me.
Unless you get like a 30-point hammer from Robert Woods, which I'm rooting against because I have Buccaneers D.
30 points from Woods, 30 points from Brady, 40 points from Brady, 20 points from Woods.
Yeah. It's been a weird NFL season, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
We got Week 12 waiver wire on this show. Before we jump into the Week 12 waiver wire, be sure to check out our website at thefantasychampions.com. Follow us on Twitter at @TheFFChamps, on Instagram at @TheFantasyChampions. You can like us at facebook.com/TheFantasyChampions. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or any other podcasting platforms, be sure to leave a review and share this podcast with your friends. You can also subscribe. Subscribing is the best way to support the show because it'll help us appear all over the interwebs. I don't even know if that's true, but I made it up on the spot. If you're watching on YouTube, be sure to subscribe. 1,000 subs. Rick's hair is gone by the end of the season. Click the bell for notifications because subscribing is not enough to know when we post a podcast. And then like and comment down below any questions you might have for Week 12 or waiver wires or trades or whatever. Whatever you want to ask, hit the comments.
Yeah.
I notice you guys haven't been commenting because there's no relevant questions to ask anymore because trades are gone.
What about the waiver wire, though?
But just comment down below a friendly reminder that we suck or we don't suck or whatever.
Yeah, you can do that too.
So let's jump right into our waiver wires for this week. Rick, give me a quarterback that you're just pining to pick up this week and start as a stream option.
Yeah, there's not a ton. I feel like
what are you talking about, dude? There's plenty of guys. Just kidding.
Well, on this list, there's definitely not a ton. But depending on who's available in your league, there could be some options.
Yeah.
I think if Teddy Bridgewater is back against Minnesota, he could be a streamable option if he's available in your league. Derek Carr is a streamable option this week against Atlanta. I think those two guys are the main.
What was the first guy you said?
What was it?
What's the first guy you said?
Teddy Bridgewater against Minnesota.
Okay. Yeah.
And Derek Carr against Atlanta. Those two guys. I know, this list has Baker Mayfield on this list. I'm just so far gone from Baker Mayfield. You know what he's done 3 weeks in a row and 4 of the last 5 weeks?
Under 10.
4 of the last 5 weeks. He has 7, 30, 7, 5, 7. He hasn't thrown a touchdown pass in 3 weeks.
Oh man, Baker Mayfield, you are hot trash.
So
yeah, I could have told you he wasn't going to be good as a fantasy quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
That probably was a safe bet. Yeah, I mean it's gonna the Baker Mayfield thing's gonna look sexy against Jacksonville. I will go out on a limb and say I'm avoiding that situation. I think Bridgewater, like you said, is a good situation. I know this week he was trending towards playing. He was limited participant all week, and then all of a sudden at the last second they decided to sit him for Philip Walker, who was garbage.
Yeah.
So I think they're hoping to get Bridgewater back.
Wait. Philip Walker's garbage, bro.
He threw like 3 picks.
What'd you say?
He threw like 3 picks.
I don't think so. My man had 2 picks, 1 touchdown, 258, and got a dub.
He had 12 fantasy points.
Okay, yeah.
All right, so anyway, when Bridgewater comes back this week, I'm going to go out on a limb and say when. Good matchup against Minnesota. He has had some good fantasy outings this year. He certainly is not matchup proof. I really don't understand his performances either. Like some really easy matchups, he gets like 14 points.
Yeah, it's kind of aggravating.
And then against some hard matchups, he gets 28. So I don't know. But Bridgewater, I would say, is a good streaming option against Minnesota, like you said. And then Derek Carr coming off a 25-point game against against Kansas City, or I should say 22, 5-point touchdown league for our league. I should just change it to 6 and screw the whole thing up. He has Atlanta and the Jets coming up. The Raiders don't have the most daunting defense in the NFL, so I will say that Derek Carr is probably a good play this week. And then the only other guy I would add is probably Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, but yeah.
He's not a bad play. He had 22 points against Dallas this week. The last 3 weeks, he had 20 against Detroit, 18 against Chicago, 22 against Dallas. And he's got Carolina and Jacksonville coming up. So if you're on a bye week, I think I don't know who was on a bye quarterback this week. But anyway, yeah, if you need a quarterback streaming option for there, I would say Kirk Cousins.
I think if you're in a little bit of a deeper league, I would also add Daniel Jones.
Okay.
If you're in a deeper league, just because he's playing against Cincinnati this week, and he's coming off a really good week where he had 22 fantasy points.
Yeah.
And he's slowly been improving last few weeks. So against a good matchup, I'd be willing to throw a dart at Daniel Jones. Obviously, I'd rather have every guy we've talked about before him, though. But if you're in a little bit of a deeper league, I think he's a reasonable stream.
Now, are you interested at all in Andy Dalton? I don't know what his matchup is, but Andy Dalton this week coming back. Or he already came back. Sorry.
He came back this past week, actually.
Yep, I'm sorry. I totally zonked on that.
No, he had 19 points this week, too.
Okay, he has what's his matchup this week?
3 touchdowns. He actually was very good. Against Washington.
Hold on a second. While you're on the Dallas point, did you see CeeDee Lamb's catch?
I did.
My pants were on the floor.
Did you see Adam Thielen's catch from that same game?
Yeah.
He got like an Odell one-handed catch in the end zone.
Ridiculous. Anyway. So who's Dalton playing this week?
Washington, and the last time he played Washington, that was the game he got injured in. Mm-hmm. But in like 3 quarters of that game, he had 3 fantasy points.
Interesting.
So he was horrible last time they played Washington, but coming off a good week. So, and Washington, hasn't been great against quarterbacks other than that 1 week.
Yeah.
So I don't know. He's kind of in the same territory as Daniel Jones. I think I'd rather take a chance with Daniel Jones, though. But
yeah,
it's not awful.
Okay. Those are your tight end streaming, quarterback streaming options of the week. I said tight end, didn't I? You know what it is? It's because Taysom Hill started this week.
I did really good. I should have started him.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about the running back position as always. Handcuffs. I would even encourage you, maybe we'll talk about this on Wednesday's trade show, to trade for your handcuffs at this point in the year if you can. But I don't think that there are really any other options out there. Now, I want to preface this by saying that after J.K. Dobbins' elite week, him and Mark Ingram both cuddled in the locker room and shared COVID together. So they're both on the COVID IR list. I'm not sure if they tested positive or not, to be honest with you.
Yeah, just keep that in mind.
But they're both probably not going to be available for Sunday's game, in which case the Gus bus would take over as a feature back. You might also be able to get Justice Hill. Don't pick him up, but they drafted him in the 3rd round last year, and he's just been relegated to nothing. So anyway, Gus Edwards becomes probably what I would say is the feature back. That's the guy that you're going to want to pick up this week. I don't know who Baltimore is playing this week.
They're playing the Steelers.
Oh, wow. Goodness gracious.
But last time Gus Edwards played the Steelers, he had 16 carries for 87 yards and a touchdown for 14 fantasy points.
Well, saddle him up.
Saddle him up.
We'll see what happens. They play on Thursday night, right? Correct? Is that?
I think so. Yeah.
Thursday night.
That actually is a good point because that means Ingram and Dobbins. It might be very hard for both those guys to end up playing since it's a short week.
Okay. Yeah. I totally forgot Thanksgiving is Thursday.
That is kind of weird.
Because I'll enjoy that football game. Hopefully, Gus Edwards gets a turkey leg.
Yeah,
we'll see what happens. But how much money would you spend on Gus Bus?
Considering I think he's really only going to be a 1 week thing because they've kind of – I think J.K. Dobbins is kind of taking over that starting spot and Mark Ingram still does his thing. It depends on the situation you're in. So, like, if you desperately need a running back, like let's say you have a Joe Mixon or somebody who is injured.
Right.
You need somebody, maybe a Chris Carson, right? Somebody who's been injured. I would definitely put like $20 on him. You need a win going into the playoffs. Like you need to get in the playoffs, pushing for that playoff spot. Because Gus Edwards, I think if he is by himself in that backfield and gets like 20 carries, like even against a tough matchup like Pittsburgh, the way Baltimore runs the football, like he's going to get like 15 fantasy points at least, which is for running back this year, 15 fantasy points is like the top 12.
If you just combine all of the Baltimore running backs into one, you might get 12 to 15. You're right, Rick.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like I said, not a horrible matchup. Depending on, I don't know if Mark Ingram or J.K. Dobbins has COVID-19. If they have it, they're going to be out 10 days. So that should be enough time to recover for the following week. So, like Rick said, not a long-term play. Did you give a dollar figure? Because I missed it.
No, I didn't. If they both have COVID, then because you'll know by the time your waivers. I think you'll probably have an idea. But
I would say $15.
I'd spend about 15 as well.
Yeah, if it's a 200, we're basing this off a 200 waiver budget league.
Yeah, if it's 100,
I'm in a league where they have $2,000, and I'm like, well, what?
I am too, actually.
What's the point of that? To be honest, never mind. So that's why you like to say percentages, but I'm not really into like. I don't know what 5% of 200 is. You couldn't shoot me in the head and tell me that. I don't know.
You're not a big statistics guy.
I mean, a statistic guy, 100%. But you should see me in the off season calculating numbers. Got my calculator open. Okay, if Le'Veon Bell gets 10 carries in one game and gets 4 yards a carry, how many yards is that? Now I got to pull up my calculator for that. So anyway, as far as the rest of these guys, obviously you have Hyde. The projection is that Chris Carson is going to come back in week 12, I believe. So I'm not really interested in Carlos Hyde if Chris Carson is playing. Hyde is a good option to have if you currently have Chris Carson on your team as a handcuff. And then if obviously Chris Carson misses another week, Carlos Hyde is playable for anyone. So I just don't know that I would spend a lot of waiver budget on him this week.
Right. Yeah, no, I'm with you on that one.
And then the only, unless you have another guy that you're just sweating over.
Yeah, there's really nobody. I think James White, if he's available, Rex Burkhead, I think tore his ACL. So he's probably going to get the way the Patriots run their offense.
Burkhead in like 3 leagues. Frick me.
I know. And it's a shame. But White hasn't really been great this year. He's kind of been used a little less than he has been in the past.
Expected.
And they've been using Burkhead a lot. But with Burkhead's injury, White might get more work. He had 11 fantasy points this week. Mm-hmm. So remember last year how White was almost consistently getting like 10 points a week?
Yeah.
I think there's a chance he could be doing that.
Okay.
Again with Burkhead's injury, so he might be worth a pickup. If he's
the only other guy, once again, I would say, depending on what happens on Monday night, obviously, keep an eye on Monday night. But I would say Cam Akers, as we talked about him last week, he's an ad where you pick him up. He could have a late season breakout. He's one of those guys that if they give him the full workload and he starts playing really, really well, he could be a league winner. Not projecting it or saying it's going to happen, but you want to make sure you have that on your team in case it does. Last week he had 10 carries. He only had 3.8 yards. 3.8 yards a carry, 38 total yards in the game, no targets, 3 fantasy points total in the game. He does have a gauntlet of a schedule, and he's playing Tampa on Monday, so I don't know how he performed, but just I would speculatively add him in case something happens. At this point, I traded all my bench away, so I could probably pick him up and have him on my team. But unless there's any other running backs, we'll move on.
I think that's it.
This list is filled with guys for this week for some strange reason.
It's all the same guys, though, pretty much.
Pretty much all the same guys. We have 2 guys on this list. Last week we talked about Pittman Jr. He only had 3 targets this week, but I think that's because he was facing Jair Alexander. And I would say that's probably a good contributor to him not getting many targets.
He's still at 14 fantasy points.
He's still at 14 fantasy points. He caught, I think it was 60 yards and a touchdown on 3 targets, 3 catches. I love Michael Pittman. I did not understand the hype surrounding him coming out. I watched his film and I'm like, there's so many good wide receivers in this class. I'm just not excited about him. But man, he's 5 times better than TY right now.
That's very true. Yeah.
So I like him this year and I love him next year. But if you can get him on your team now, this could be one of those, like there are some wide receivers that just take all season in your rookie year just to start understanding the offense and figuring things out. And obviously he had an injury for like 4 weeks or 6 weeks. I can't remember how long it was, but it seems like he's starting to build a connection with Phillip Rivers. So once again, I would add him. And at this point it's going to get harder to add him. It's going to cost more money than it did last week. So if you didn't jump on him last week, you got to do it now. Otherwise somebody's going to have a potential league winning wide receiver. Cause I don't think Indianapolis has a tough schedule rest of season for their wide receivers. Let me just check. He has, it's Tennessee, Houston, Raiders, Houston, Pittsburgh, Jacksonville, and so that's a very easy schedule.
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts on Pittman?
Yeah, no, I like Pittman, and you pretty much hit the nail on the head with that.
Mm-hmm.
The 3 targets does scare me a little bit, but
always,
like you said, it was just kind of the matchup and who he's facing off against. He's got a great rest of season schedule. I definitely would pick him up though, 100%, because he has a chance. If he does this rest of the season, gets 14, 15 points a week, he can end up being a really good flex for you and potentially win your league if you're desperate in need for a flex right now.
So usually we like to talk about guys with a below 50% ownership. But there's a couple of guys on this list that are at like 52. So
yeah,
we'll leave it at that. But Debo, which I'm surprised people dropped him. He's coming back soon. I'm not. I think he's worth a roster spot. I'm not amped to have him on my team without Jimmy G.
Right.
So I don't know what the expectation is. Jimmy G out for the season? I forgot what happened to him.
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right. So yeah, for Debo though, I think it's worth an ad, obviously, but I don't know what the expectation is going forward for him. They obviously like to use him in strange scenarios and on end arounds and wide receiver run plays and creative stuff. So I don't know what it's going to look like to have Debo, but Debo had a lot of the season last year where, last year they had Jimmy G for most of the season, correct?
They did.
Oh, okay. All right. There you go. But yeah, so I just, what you see is what you get with Debo at this point. Obviously you're not picking up to start this week unless you desperately need a start. But I would definitely roster him at least.
Yeah, he is still worth the roster. He definitely isn't as appealing without Jimmy G. But he was good. Even he was okay even with Nick Mullins. I think the thing with Kyle Shanahan, he likes to get his stars involved. So he'll run a lot of plays like end arounds and screens for Debo.
Yeah.
So he'll still have a decent floor. I think his ceiling is definitely capped, but still worth a roster spot because I think he can still realistically get like 10 points a week.
Fair.
Him and Brandon Ayuk, I think, are still fine. So yeah, I wouldn't mind Debo. The next guy too, who is also owned in 52% leagues, Sterling Shepard. If he's available in your league, he should also be owned. He's got a fantastic end of season schedule, and he honestly gets targeted the most in that offense that has been awful all year. But the last few weeks, as I was saying with Daniel Jones earlier in the show, is kind of improving a little bit. And with that schedule, they could be at least
This is Sterling Shepard, correct?
Yeah, Sterling Shepard.
Okay.
They could not, they might not be great, obviously, but they could be decent enough where it's good. Because since he's come back from injury, he's gotten 8, 10, 8, 6 targets. So pretty solid. He 14, 11, 8, 7 fantasy points. He's going to have a floor week to week, and with that great schedule, he plays like Seattle, Cincinnati, Arizona, all teams that struggle against the pass. So I think Sterling Shepard should definitely be owned because I think he could be a flex week to week.
Okay. The only other guy that I would kind of reference or say, I might do a speculative ad on Nelson Aguilor. I don't know what the Raiders' schedule looks like rest of the season, but he's a good wide receiver to have in case you need to start. They seem to like to throw it to him.
It's so weird. He gets 9, 2, 3, 4, 9 targets. Like one week he'll get 2 targets and 0 catches, and the very next week he'll get 9 targets and 7 catches.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's so ridiculous.
And then the only other guy that I would say is probably Sammy Watkins. He is coming back from an injury. He's not we talked about him a little bit last week. He's not an exciting ad, but he was doing relatively well early in the season before he did get hurt. So I would add him. He's the slot receiver for the Chiefs, and the Chiefs right now are without Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. They really don't have anyone else to throw the football to because Hardman's been basically non-existent. So I would add Watkins, but that's about it.
I think he is worth an ad, yeah.
Now, a lot of people are probably going to be like, should I add Demir Bird his 23 fantasy point week? No.
I wouldn't.
I wouldn't add a Patriots wide receiver at this point. Rick started the other one.
Hey, I started him against the Jets too, and he got like 20 points. Jacoby Myers.
Yeah. It is what it is. If you could put both receivers in one slot on your team.
Hey, Myers has only played in 5 games this year, okay?
Yeah.
He had 8, 10, 22, 14.
Tell
me that's not unreasonable to think that he could get another 10-point week.
I don't think it's unreasonable.
I think you're just playing the hindsight game. And he's playing against Houston, who is one of the worst teams in the league against the pass.
Fair enough.
But Cam Newton just decided he didn't exist this week.
Yeah, he's the guy. He's the one. So let's talk about tight ends really quickly before we close out the show here. Is there any tight end that you want to add? I will say Eric Ebron against Baltimore. They've been not very good against tight ends. I think that the Pittsburgh Steelers might funnel the ball that direction. So if he's available, I'd pick him up if you need a tight end for the week.
Yeah. Eric Ebron, it might not be that bad. I know in our league, Dallas Goedert was available before this week. He might be available in your league. He should absolutely 100% be on rosters. That's Trey Burton, I think, had a good week, but he's so up and down.
Mm-hmm.
He does have a good matchup against Tennessee.
Okay.
So that could be a reasonable start, or reasonable pickup. But, the tight end position is just so there's
gross.
Just not that many guys.
Yeah. You remember when Higbee was like a 9th round pick, 8th round pick?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not a thing. I don't think there's any other tight ends available. That's kind of gross. Maybe Logan Thomas against Dallas.
I think you could consider that. He's been on this list like every week, hasn't he?
Yeah. The tight end position is basically dead. It's always been. It's back to normal.
Unless you got Travis Kelce.
When I have T.J. Hawkinson, who's the top 3 tight end.
I think TJ. I think he is the 3rd tight end. Darren Waller's number 2.
Wanted to look. Hold on.
Hawkinson's number 2.
Waller, Andrews. How does Andrews continue to be on this list when he puts up like a 20-point game every once in a while? Hawkinson is 5.
Well, that's the thing. That's why tight end. He's the third tight end in the league because tight ends have been so bad. Like he had 4 straight weeks under 10 points, and then he got 18 this week, and he's the tight end 3.
Yeah, Hawk and Jonnu, 2 of our favorite tight ends in the offseason.
Yeah,
look pretty good. Gesicki's the tight end 16, so there goes my hopes and dreams. But anyway, there's never any tight ends to add. So unless you have anything else to add, we'll close out the show.
Nope, I think that's it.
Because I'm hungry. I'm gonna go eat dinner and enjoy losing football tonight. Losing fantasy football.
Yeah.
It's absolutely terrible. My fantasy life is almost over at this point, fantasy season. But I'm in like 7 leagues, so we'll see what happens. Don't forget to check out our website at thefantasychampions.com. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram. We'll talk to you tomorrow, Fantasy Champs.
Later.
Thank you for listening to the Fantasy Champions Podcast. Make sure you subscribe on iTunes and YouTube and follow us on Twitter at TheFFChamps.